Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. My name is Steve, otherwise known as Pin, and today we're going to take a look at the Misc Endeavour, the Rubik's Cube of space, the most complex machine that will come to the game thus far, and certainly very nearly put me in a coma trying to research this ship. This is way before I started playing the game. However, I am very much looking forward to its arrival in the future. There is a lot to go over. There will be a lot of theory craft, speculation, conjecture, all this sort of normal stuff you will find here on this channel. But we will try and cover as much as we can. But it is an extremely complex ship. In fact, it's so complex that even the devs themselves are pretty dubious about this particular vessel.
Does John Crew look like he wants to die anytime someone mentions the Endeavour?
I know exactly who asked this because I saw it in the thread. I don't know. It's just something about that ship. Maybe it's the space farming ship that gets to me, or the absolute headache I know is going to hit us for because it was before my time at the company. The absolute headache we're going to have with the modularity on it.
Okay, let's start off by trying to explain the layout of the ship and how it works. Okay, so as I understand it, there are three areas to the ship. So we have the Explorer cab at the front. This is able to detach from the rest of the body of the ship and go about its business. Could be useful in emergencies, or if you want to go do something else, you can detach the front of the Explorer cab. It is powered under its own power. It doesn't have a jump drive. However, I would only tend to want to use this as an emergency. I really don't want to leave the commodity that is the rest of the ship behind anywhere at any point. I would only personally use the Explorer cab to detach if there was some sort of emergency. Now, it doesn't have its own jump drive, but it does have QT drive and everything else, and it is pivotal to the maneuverability of the rest of the ship. The trailer sort of end of the ship, if you will not be able to maneuver without that Explorer cab firmly attached to the front. So that's kind of interesting. It's very cool, very good design. It kind of feels like it's a space semi-trailer, if you will, with like an 18-wheeler, for example, where you could just leave the trailer behind and go do other things. I like that. I think that's going to be useful. So that in itself is going to be pretty complex. To reattach the cab to the rest of the ship could be quite interesting, could be quite difficult. We just don't know. So here we're going to move on to sort of a basic layout, if you will. Try and focus your attention to the front of the ship, because I'm not quite sure if these science pods are going to be a thing. I know there are pods for quote-unquote science. So as you can see, we have the cockpit, crew quarters, observation deck. Not sure if that's going to stay there, but that would be nice. Retro thrusters, Xi'an maneuvering thrusters, of course being Misc. 2 landing pads, and this is very early work. I'm not sure they are going to be implemented. I don't think they will. There is a module where you can attach a landing bay. I could be wrong. More than likely, I will be wrong. We have the forward life pods, and then you can sort of see the skeleton in between. So in the midsection of the ship is the workstation area, if you will. This is where all of your modules will attach to the vessel. Now, I believe when the ship went on sale, there's 3 different variants that was sold, each with different modules to suit a particular need and role, if you will. The rear of the ship will be used to power the modules that you attach to your Endeavour in and around the midsection of the ship. So all the modules, could be in the med bay, the farming domes, anything like that, will be powered by the rear of the ship. We do have some escape pods at the rear as well, which is something you're definitely going to want, because this ship is 200 meters long. That's quite large. So I would like my crew to be able to escape, depending on what they are doing and where their location is on the vessel itself. So extremely complex, but very, very cool, and it's going to have so many uses that you are going to be able to tailor this ship to your particular profession that you do enjoy the most. For me, this will be a buying game. I don't want it from the start. I don't think I'll be able to crew it. But nevertheless, I am very much looking forward to its arrival. Okay guys, let's begin our wonderful magical journey talking about the various modules that we can attach to this ship. Now we're going to kick things off with the farming module, modules and domes you can see equipped to it here. My first impressions are, yes, that's cool. I like the idea of space farming, don't get me wrong. However, they kind of just look like gardens to me, right? I do like the idea of farming. Let's imagine we're on some backwater planet, middle of nowhere. We've established our colony with our pioneer. We've found rare plants, and what we have found, rather than farming, say, crops, what I would do with this ship is, because we can attach research modules and science modules, what if those plants we found had medicinal properties? So then we've gone from farming to medical supplies. That is something I would like to do with these domes, because I think there's a lot of profit to be had there, especially with medical supplies. In game at the moment, they're worth quite a lot, as we know. So I would like to take these rare plants, research them, and then see if we can't extract medical supplies to sell. That could be a very good profit margin. Now, as you can see, they come in pairs of 2, so you could maybe mix and match. That's the idea I would like. If you want to be a space farmer, I do think maybe growing your own crops on the ship won't be as effective, but I think transporting rare plants or particular whatever might be needed, food, could be profitable. We'll have to wait and see. I like the idea of space farming, but ideally I would like a bit more information regarding on how it's going to play out. But it's certainly a game loop that could be interesting. There's a lot of possibilities there. But until we get more information, we just don't know. And as you can see itself, it does look really cool. But they more look, to me, they look like space gardens rather than a farming area to me, right? That just looks like, here's a ship with 4 gardens on it. Do you know what I mean? I don't quite get the farming vibe, and that's not because there's no tractors or anything driving around in it. I just think it's a great idea. It's a very good idea, but I think the domes, I don't think it's quite the right fit for me. But there is certainly a lot of potential for this particular game loop, and I almost certainly will dab in it. But I think it will be mostly down on the ground on a planet with my colony and my pioneer, etc., where I would probably focus the farming implementation into the game. We could use this ship to transport the various goods from our farm. I can't see that really being an issue. But for me personally, it would be medical research. Can we get medicinal properties from this rare plants or things we've never seen before? Can we make medicine? Can we sell it? Can we get rich? Because ultimately this is all for profit, right? So that's certainly something interesting, and I would like to see and hope it does come, because I think that would be very interesting indeed. But very complex ship, and those domes, yeah, they just don't quite sit right with me. Like I said, I do kind of feel like they just feel like space gardens to me at the moment. I'm sure things will change. This ship almost certainly will change in its modules, probably. It might even get bigger. We don't know. There's a lot that could happen between now and then. We can only look forward to the future and see what they come up with. So that's sort of my thoughts on space farming. I do look forward to it, but at the same time, I am quite dubious. The other thought that sort of crossed my mind as well when it came to looking at the images we have now and farming, does that include the ability to maintain and transport livestock, maybe even alien livestock? Would these domes support animals? I haven't read anywhere to suggest otherwise, but But if that was the case, that could certainly be a game changer regarding the verse and what you could transport in these domes. I think that would be a very unique touch, because they are quite complex, as you can see on screen, but I think that would be something to look forward to, almost certainly. So what we have here is the medical module that will attach to the Endeavour, and arguably for me one of the most important modules, especially early game when we do get to explore and colonize. I think this ship and this particular module will be extremely useful, and I'll tell you why. Let's pretend we've established our colony, okay? Again, there's a lot of colony talk, I know, but bear with me. It is very likely that we're going to be in the middle of nowhere with no medical support. Sure, we might have a Cutlass Red, a Carrack, or the Odyssey, or other ships with medical bays, but what we need for our organisation, if you're in a big one especially, we are more than likely going to want a dedicated hospital, if you will, and this ship in orbit will be perfect for that, with this particular medical bay around, flying over and around your colony. Players can respawn here if they are attacked or injured or fall off a cliff or get run over or bitten by a space mouse. You just don't know. This ship with this module will be extremely useful, and I would definitely pay to have one on hand if I didn't own one myself. In terms of the layout, there's been several sort of images and concepts regarding how it would fit to the ship, but again, I think the value of the medical bay speaks volumes, because I can just see the potential for that. Even if you were to sit in the middle of the space and activate a beacon saying, look, hospital here, you need it, come get it, you know, especially if we equip this ship with the launch bay, we could have a ship we could rent out to people. They die, they spawn in our hospital, and they can fly to their ship or whatever. I just think there's a lot of opportunity here for the medical side. It also ties in with what I said earlier about if we're producing our own medical supplies with the plants and stuff we find, we could possibly self-sustain supplies for medical injuries on board our ship. We could create our own. So as you can see, we've got a 3-level hospital pod, stackable med barracks, and a supply pod. I think that is going to be super useful, to be honest. It is very intriguing to have a flying hospital, especially when we're out in the verse and we're many miles away from any sort of civilization, or possibly in enemy territory, who knows. So here we have the launch pad forward stroke mini hangar. Now I believe it was designed to fit a Cutlass Red in there to tailor towards the medical aspect of this ship, possibly 2. So we could fit, obviously, other ships of that size in the launch pad hangar area. I think you'd have to think about what sort of ship you'd want to put in there, depending on how you've tailored your Endeavour, right? So if you're going for long-range exploration with the fueling pod on, as you can see here, you might want a 315p or a Terrapin in there, or something of that nature. But it does make life a little bit easier to have a nice little landing pad in there. Nice touch. They've made it to a certain size, I believe, to stop it becoming a pocket carrier, which makes sense because there's other ships for that. We don't want loads of ships doing the same stuff, in my opinion. But it does look very good. Looks really snug and fits nicely there. I hope they don't change it too much. I do like the layout and the sort of aesthetics that the launch bay has. Again, it will be very useful. This with the medical bay could be excellent, very useful to have. So again, the ability to swap modules to fit your particular needs is going to be very impressive, very complicated, and it will take some strategizing between you and your organization on how you wish to deploy your Endeavour. But again, I think it is a very important aspect of the ship. The med bay for me, along with the launch bay. Here we have an early concept image, maybe 2 separate launch bays. I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea. I think the one big one is just fine by me. But again, still very, very, very cool, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, of course, there is something else rather cool about the launch bay on this ship. It does come with decontamination features, which is great. So if we're out and about in the verse and we get covered in some sort of space goo while we're exploring, and we get injured, let's say we fall off a cliff and we've got a nasty septic wound, we don't want to then bring that nasty septic wound back to the hospital and possibly infect everyone else. It will also be able to service 1 to 2 ships, I believe, which is going to be very handy indeed. So that decontamination, I think, is a big part of the launch bay and is something I would certainly lean towards, especially with the medical pod. I'm not sure we could squeeze a research pod, maybe just have the one medical pod. I don't think asymmetry is the thing on this ship. I think they want it to be fairly symmetrical to help with propulsion and balance. After all, there is going to be a lot of weight in the midsection of the ship, and any sort of untoward unbalance could cause issues. So here you can see there is a cutlass in there, very early sort of sketches. It is supposed to fit 2 in there, so things could change, and they almost certainly will, but for now this is the best that I could find to work with, but very interesting, and I look forward to seeing how all of this plays out, because like I said, the possibilities are endless with this ship and its construction and how you wish to tailor it. Okay guys, let's now talk about this massive telescope that it has strapped onto the back of it, the telescopic array that we can fit as a module to the Endeavour. This will be super useful and extremely profitable, I imagine. We will be able to detect jump points, planets, asteroids, or minerals, you name it. I'm pretty sure that this thing will be very effective at finding and selling new information. I can see a lot of profit being made with this. However, I will say I hate the way it looks. It looks cumbersome. I think it needs a little bit of a rework. Now, it's easy to criticise. It is easy to criticise, of course it is. But for me, I just think that doesn't look 1,000 years in the future. To me, that looks like something we have today that's been slapped onto the back of it, so I hope they change the look of it. But the potential in regards to how you operate your ship and make money is going to be very, very high with the profit margins with this, because we can sell all sorts of information, jump point locations, minerals, asteroids, and all things of that manner, backed up by the science pods and maybe even the research pods. We could make a small killing, I would have thought. We could point Carracks and Odysseys in the direction of something we found, sell information to orgs, so there's going to be a lot of fun there. Could we get a herald on board and transport that data to sell surface side on a planet? I think probably so. So that is certainly something to look forward to. That is going to be very cool if we can get this ship out, pinging things left, right and centre and selling that information. So yeah, I think this would be a very unique aspect of this ship, and if I'm honest, one of the more popular, just because of the sheer potential of this particular telescopic array, but I just don't like the look of it. Now let's take a look of how this might work. There is a rudimentary sort of video we can take a look at here, and as you can see, we're in the verse, we found something, we zoom in, boom, random comet, it's rich in quantanium. For some reason, I don't do science. It's rich in things that we want. Let's go get it. So I am looking forward very much to the aspect of that particular module. Next up is this absolute monstrosity. This is MSI Afterburner for your spaceship. Okay, the Super Collider, which is a great and fantastic opportunity to make a butt ton of money as well. So what this does is you can take guns from ships, components from ships, and this will overclock them to gather and improve performance of said components. So we could have customers landing or parts being sent to us, possibly. Not sure how that would work, just conjecture again. And what we can do with this is overclock multiple components and make a profit. So we can get a mass of wealth through charging our customers who want performance. Let's say there's a racing team that comes to us and say, look, I've got my M50 and it's not quite as nippy as I want it to be, which is quite a rare statement, but let's go with me. So we can then overclock components and make them perform well above what their standard use would be, and then charge potential customers for that overclocking service. Now, I really, really like the look of this module. I know I've been criticising a lot, but for me, this looks space. This looks sci-fi. It looks cool. Equipped, I imagine you would have the research pods with it, possibly the science pods, and just being able to manufacture components, not manufacture, but improve and make them more effective is certainly something people will be interested in, especially a racing team. I can see racing teams coming here, or maybe you've got mercenaries who want their weapons to perform better, and they want their shield generators to perform better and at a enhanced rate than they already do. Then this certainly offers up a lot of potential. How would we use it? Good question. I think you'd probably want to orbit somewhere in between high traffic areas, put a beacon out, make the ship readily available so people don't have to go too far. You'd want to go somewhere populated, obviously, but you could certainly make a small killing, I think, upgrading parts. So that is something to look forward to, and something I think I wouldn't mind dabbling in to see how it would work. The other problem, of course, is when this ship is released, how many are we going to be in the verse? Because you don't want to have the same business plan as everyone else, right? That's going to create competition. Ideally, you want to scout who's got what and who's selling what where to maximize your profit potential, I would like to think. But I do really enjoy the sort of layout and scope of what they've done here. It does look really cool. It seems to fit nicely. It doesn't look too bulky or clumsy. Something to look forward to with this ship. Again, just so many things we can do with this ship. It's crazy. So let's now take a look at some of the multi-purpose pods that we can attach to the Endeavour. We have a fuel pod, a general research pod, service equipment and crew pod, and general science pod. Now the fuel pod is pretty self-explanatory. Think of it as a large space drop tank to increase the Endeavour's range. I personally wouldn't want to waste a slot on the spine on the ship with that. I don't think that'll be needed. I think there'll be plenty of ways to get fuel or extend the range of the Endeavour. We have the general research pod, which is going to be designed to sort of analyze minerals, biology, things of that nature. So that could be useful. I can certainly see that being useful. The service equipment and crew pod, that will allow us to carry more crew. Let's pretend we've got maybe some marines on board that we want for protection. To prevent pirates, we could have a little squad of marines on board that will service and equip them. That could be very useful if you're a relatively small org or trying to fly this ship solo. Then we have the general science pod, which I think is going to be one of the most important ones. As I was saying earlier, I think when we were talking about medicinal supplies from the plants we've found with those domes, could we make the Endeavour effectively a flying jump town, a flying drug lab? Almost certainly yes, and that could be interesting. We could certainly make a killing through doing that. So these modules add more flexibility to the ship and allow you to tailor it even further to your particular profession and or needs. I wouldn't want to waste too much space on these configurations though, but it is a very nice idea that we can sort of swap these in and out in the future. I like that idea. I really do, because it's the potential for this ship is unparalleled with anything we've got at the moment. I'm almost certain it won't be the only ship to offer us so many opportunities, but nonetheless, as it's looking at the moment, there is certainly a lot to explore with how this is going to play out. So there is almost certainly a lot to discuss with this ship. So much, in fact, that, you know, this video could go on for days if I start taking a walk down conjecture lane. However, I am interested to know, what do you guys plan to do with an Endeavour when we can buy it in-game? If you have it already, what are your plans? What modules did you buy? Why did you buy them? How are you going to run it? Do you have one in an org? Do you want to try and fly it solo? Are you going to employ NPCs? I'm fascinated to know. I do read all of the comments. So put your ideas down, how you think you can use it. Do you think the ship will change? I think it almost certainly it will. So I'm very much looking forward to what your guys' opinions are. So please feel free. I've almost certainly missed some information. If I have, please put it down below. Now let's move on to some of the space nerd details, shall we, in regards to sort of basic figures and stuff. So we have 500 SCU, which is respectable. Okay, we have the prices on the right. We have a length of 200 meters, a beam of 48, a height of 20, and a mass which obviously will change depending on the modules you have applied. So there's the information for you guys there if you wanted to see it. Now, of course, we haven't talked about the cab, or the cockpit, if you will, as much as we normally do. We like to have a good look around to see what we might be getting. There's only been 2 images. From what we can see here, very clean, very functional, very basic. I do like the cockpit. It does, the front of the Explorer cab does share similarities between that of the Odyssey. So I imagine we will expect the same sort of materials and design when it comes to the layout of the cockpit. We've got the 3 seats there, and I think an engineering station to the left. Whether or not you'll need this fully manned all the time, I'm not entirely sure. It's 3 to 5 crew. So maybe with NPCs you could operate this ship, but that of course doesn't include the staff and other people on board, even potential customers that you could have in and around the workstation at any point, or any traffic leaving and returning to your launch bay. So yeah, we'll have to wait until it's released, or we get more information released to us, I should say, about how this is all going to play out. But it's certainly been through many iterations, and this is a telescope concept that I think is better than that bloody awful umbrella that they slapped on top of it. So I guess, guys, we'll have to wait and see how this all plans out. I am looking forward to it. It will be a ship I buy in game, because I think buying it this early, I'm not quite sure. For me, I just don't think there's enough information out there yet, except for it will be awesome. You know, who knows? If at a later date, maybe IAE, we could pick one up. I could pick one up. I probably would, because it's just the possibilities. It's fairly easy to crew, 3 to 5 crew. That could change, but again, if we had to run that with NPCs, who knows? So that, guys, has been my video on the Misc Endeavour. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what buttons to press. Now, before I go, I will leave you with all of the Q&A for you to read through. If there's anything you wanted to know, I will put that on screen. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you all very soon when I have more Star Citizen content en route to your location soon. Cheers.